and it's failed. Only an all-encompassing program combining restraint in government spending with economic growth in the private sector will work. I offer precisely that kind of program. To look at the situation we find ourselves in today is to know that we not only need such a program, but that we need such a program now.
The time is now for Reagan. Reagan for president.
This is ABC.
The Ayatollah no longer wants an apology. Eyewitness News is next.
Contemporary American artist Chuck Close sees each eyelash, wrinkle, and pore in every face he paints. Color upon color, feature by feature, he builds his colossal portraits. After 14 months, an amazingly detailed face 9 feet tall and 7 feet wide stares from the canvas. See the monumental paintings, prints, and drawings of Chuck Close in a major new exhibition at the Walker Art Center, September 28th through November 16th.
Eyewitness News, the Northwest's most complete, comprehensive, and up-to-the-minute coverage, with meteorologist Dennis Feltgen, sportscaster Bob Bruce, and anchorman Don Ellison.
Good evening. That MTC bus driver involved in the hit-and-run death of a Minneapolis man was fired today. We'll tell you about that just a little bit later. Also tonight, a conversation with Minneapolis Police Chief Anthony Boza about police brutality. The latest on last night's chemical spill on railroad property in St. Paul. Our On Your Behalf team will follow up 2 stories, one about dangerous crib toys, the other about a sugarless sweetener. And we'll take a look at the mileage ratings for new cars. But first, the Ayatollah Khomeini has apparently outlined new conditions for release of our hostages. Missing is the former demand of an apology from the United States. In a radio message, the Ayatollah said the hostages would be freed if the Shah's wealth is returned, U.S. claims against Iran are canceled, funds frozen in the United States are freed, and there is a promise of no U.S. intervention in Iran.
Khomeini's latest speech is considered by U.S. officials to be a positive sign. The U.S. could move to unfreeze most of the $8 billion in Iranian assets currently being held, though there are some serious legal problems. Secretary Muskie has in effect already committed the U.S. on paper to non-interference in Iran's affairs. As for the Shah's assets, that's somewhat more difficult because what and where they are is uncertain. The American government doesn't have them. However, as recently as last week, the U.S. repeated its position that Iranians should make their claims through U.S. courts. In addition, there are 2 important points Khomeini did not make. He said nothing about trials for the hostages, and he made no demands for an American apology. In other words, Khomeini's demands could be met. The only important required ingredient is a spirit of compromise. Late this afternoon, President Carter offered this careful assessment.
Well, we've observed carefully what has been said in Iran, both today and in the days during this past week. We've learned to be very cautious about statements from Iran, but we'll be monitoring what is going on and analyzing the statements further.
Some officials here think Khomeini may have been signaling the Iranian parliament that he wants the hostage issue settled. However, other officials who have been up and down so many times are still skeptical. They note that just because Khomeini does not mention something, for instance, an apology, doesn't mean he has conceded the point. It's understood the U.S. will seek clarification of Khomeini's statement through its several other channels of contact with Iran. Until that starts to come in, the word here is caution. Barry Dunsmore, ABC News, the State Department.
Turkey's new military rulers announced today that they will maintain a pro-Western foreign policy, and they said they were forced to seize control to avoid a civil war over there. The military was in clear control of strategic areas this morning. In Washington, diplomats said they were concerned anytime a democratic government was overthrown, but said they understood the military's motives. The generals who led the takeover appeared on Turkish television and promised to guard the nation while solving political and economic problems. Last night's cold rain may have prevented a disaster when 10,000 gallons of a dangerous chemical were spilled just below Dayton's Bluffs in St. Paul. The liquid used to make plastic spilled out when a Burlington Northern train derailed. The chemical burns at 90 degrees, and that had officials worried that the chemical would explode. but the rain helped to prevent any problems, and crews continue to clean up that mess. Psychiatrists and psychologists will testify on behalf of Ming Sin Hsu tomorrow in St. Paul as the trial goes into the weekend. The prosecution rested its case today. We get more now from Channel 5 reporter Lou Harvin.
The prosecution tried to show that Ming Hsu knew what he was doing when he abducted the Stoffers, that it was planned. So they called Mary Stoffer's father-in-law to the stand. He told how a man, possibly Hsu, broke into his Duluth home back in 1972. He held he and his wife at gunpoint, but later let them go when he realized he had the wrong Stoffer home. Then Mary Stoffer's husband, Irving, told the court that someone tried to break into their apartment 3 times this year before the kidnapping. And Richard Thorson, the new owner of the electronics store Ming Hsu used to own, said Hsu just sold him the place a few weeks ago, and that Hsu appeared to be normal, at least in a business sense. The defense after that brought 3 members of the Hsu family to testify. One brother, Charles, said he simply stayed away from Hsu because he was so strange. Ron told how his brother at one time threw him in an oven and turned it off and on following an argument. And his mother testified that her son developed many emotional problems over the years, but did not get much professional help. Earlier, the prosecution brought 8-year-old Beth Stoffer to the stand. She told how Ming Hsu held she and her mother captive for 7 weeks, how at one time he placed a plastic bag over her head, that after he became upset when her mother refused to kiss him. Otherwise, Beth said, Hsu did not hurt her. She also mentioned that when Ming Hsu took them to Madison in June, she stayed locked in the Winnebago while Hsu took the mother shopping. Beth said she managed to yell for help through a window, but the boys who came to talk to her did not believe her and walked away. Lou Harvin, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
The driver of that MTC bus involved in a hit-and-run accident earlier this week was fired today. Officials say driver Steve Wilson was fired because of previous accidents and because of his failure to properly handle an intoxicated passenger. So far, no criminal charges have been filed. Question: should one cop testify against another, or does that break a sacred rule of the street? A Minneapolis policeman has reportedly been ostracized because he testified against 2 colleagues in a police brutality hearing. Reporter Kathleen Douglas talked with Minneapolis Police Chief Anthony Boza, and Boza apparently expects more policemen to come forward more and more times to testify like that.
Don, Chief Boza says brutality is something that exists in Minneapolis and in every single police department in the United States, and he says it's very rare that one policeman would testify against another, but he insists we're going to be seeing more of it here in Minneapolis. Boza admitted that Sergeant Dennis Yerxa, the man who testified that fellow officers kicked a prisoner, was getting rough treatment from other cops. The chief compared the situation to the Serpico story, the story about the New York cop who turned in his buddies. Boza knows that story because he helped put in police reforms in New York after the Serpico allegations were investigated by a panel.
I wonder if you know what you would get if you spoke to Serpico. After he launched a series of reforms that absolutely cataclysmically shook the New York City Police Department. He also would say that he went through a great deal of pain and anguish and difficulty and problems and tremendous peer pressures, and all those of you who saw the movie would remember what happened. There's just no reform without this kind of pain and struggle.
Boza thinks Minneapolis cops will tolerate that kind of pain to bring honor to their force. But the policemen on the street don't all seem to agree. We talked to many who don't want to be named. They told us that Boza's creating a snitch mentality. What's worse, they say, his New York reforms are boosting crime and dropping morale to an all-time low.
Morale, and what does it mean? And if you had asked them in 1968, they would have said it's never been lower. And if you had asked them in 1956, it's never been lower. I've been a police officer since 1953 in 3 major agencies, and the one reality that is accomplished every single year is morale has never been lower.
Don, the chief says that the proof is in the result, that the Minneapolis police are doing an excellent job despite the morale being low, and the police say, indeed, they're doing it not only despite the low morale, but despite the chief. So the argument between the two goes on.
I was in New York during the Serpico situation. It was tense time for police. Thanks very much, Kathleen. In Chicago, 2 men, one supposedly a master thief, the other a near genius, were arrested as they got off a plane just 12 hours after a $3 million jewel robbery in London. The pair allegedly used a pistol and a grenade to hold up a jewelry store. The license number of their getaway car was traced to a rental agency where they used credit cards and their real names to rent the car. They also used their real names to book the flight to Chicago. The jewels have not yet been recovered. When Eyewitness News continues, another hurdle cleared for the controversial Bois Claire Riverfront Development Project. And ABC's Hugh Downs was in town today to address a senior citizens meeting.
While the prices of a lot of economy cars have been going up, Fiat has just brought down the cost of owning one, with a rebate of up to $400 cash on 3 of the best gas mileage European imports. $400 on the Fiat Brava, $300 on the Fiat X19, $300 on the Fiat Strada, with the best gas mileage of any compact in America. Make your best deal on a new Fiat, and Fiat will send you up to $400 cash. Don't miss out.
Harry, this is your last chance, Harry. Ford's is closing out the Rotamer radial, so we have to hurry. Rotamer radials are 30% off, as low as $45.50. The Rotamer radial is Ward's best fiberglass belted radial white wall. And radials offer improved gas mileage over bias 5 tires. Are you listening to me, Harry?
Ta-da!
Oh, Harry.
Save 30% on the Road Tamer radial from your automotive center, Montgomery Ward.
Here comes a whole new kind of cola, new RC 100.
Taste that great taste, new RC 100 cola, caffeine-free, sugar-free, taste that taste.
RC 100, the new caffeine-free, sugar-free cola. 100% taste that's clean and free.
Taste that great taste that's caffeine-free, new RC 100, taste that taste.
Not a whole lot of action on the national campaign trail today. Only independent candidate John Anderson was really out working. He spoke to several audiences on the West Coast. His target today was Ronald Reagan's economic policies. He said Reagan's economic proposals differ from those in the Republican platform, and he accused Reagan of trying to balance the budget with mirrors. Reagan himself took the day off at his California home, taking a bit of a breather and also meeting with his advisors. The president, meanwhile, stayed close to the White House. He did venture down to his campaign headquarters for a quick pep talk with the troops. And the day before he is to address the Sons of Italy, the president today, in a Rose Garden ceremony, presented Anthony Casamento with the Medal of Honor. Casamento was wounded 14 times while holding his position at Guadalcanal during World War II. He had been denied the medal until now because of a lack of witnesses. The president took some heat for giving the medal today. He is accused of speeding up the award, which has been dragging for years, for political purposes. Closer to home, the Minneapolis City Council today cleared one more big hurdle that's been blocking a $60 million facelift along East Hennepin Avenue. It voted to rezone the 40-acre redevelopment district to include residential property. Marcia Fleur reports.
The property along East Hennepin was part of the city's first commercial district at the turn of the century. Now it's blighted, with only Our Lady of Lourdes Church retaining the character and flavor of better days. Opponents of the Bois Claire project are afraid the church will be slighted in favor of condominiums and a high-rise apartment building inappropriate to the district. The project, which Bois Claire now calls Falls Landing, has gone through dozens of revisions to meet the objections, even including the existing church in its plans east of Hennepin. On the west side of Hennepin, the rest of the project, more condominiums, shops, and office space, will also reflect the area's architectural history.
Unfortunately, today, the area is pretty much vacant. There's more of infill development rather than restoration of existing structures. So it's pretty much our test now to create a new construction fabric that's reminiscent of what may have occurred back at the turn of the century.
Robert Bois Claire says he's learned a lot about the history of the area in meeting objections to his project, and although final city approval is far from his, he is hoping for a spring groundbreaking. Before going ahead and approving the rezoning this morning, many of the city councilmen noted that this was a perfect chance for the city of Minneapolis to start a new development without first displacing somebody. This is Marcia Fleur, Channel 5 Eyewitness News in Minneapolis.
Workers at 25 nursing homes from around the Twin Cities voted today on a new contract, and they voted to go on strike. Such a strike would affect some 2,000 workers, and now that the contract is rejected, a strike is scheduled to start tomorrow. The largest convention in the history of the Metropolitan Senior Federation was held in Minneapolis today. More than 1,500 seniors gathered to take action on the issues that confront senior citizens each day. Issues discussed included the right to die and rent control. The featured speaker at today's convention was Hugh Downs, host of ABC's 2020 and a senior citizens program on public TV. Downs told the group there is nothing wrong with being old. It's being sick or impaired that is the real concern. Well, products that pose a particular hazard for young children are the subject of On Your Behalf tonight. Here now is Neil Murray.
Don, tonight we have new developments on two stories we presented earlier this year. One story was about crib toys that turned into death traps for small infants. The other was about a sugarless sweetener that causes tooth decay, despite gum makers' claims. Many new gums and candies use a sweetener called sorbitol as a substitute for sugar. Sorbitol was first isolated in berries and fruits such as prunes and apricots. Our story this summer revealed growing evidence that sorbitol will cause cavities, but now there is more bad news. According to doctors, sorbitol causes intestinal problems, particularly diarrhea, a problem especially to infants under 5. The new use of sorbitol in candies has increased the hazard. A nonprofit citizens group, the Center for Science in the Public Interest, has now petitioned the Food and Drug Administration for a warning on sugarless gums and candies that sorbitol may cause diarrhea when eaten in large amounts by adults or in smaller amounts by young children. For even younger children, there are hazards in the toys that are supposed to amuse them. We reported earlier this year on a crib toy that caused the strangulation death of a Twin Cities infant. But we noted the Consumer Product Safety Commission had rejected crib toys as a priority and had taken no steps against the dangerous products, unless some child was injured or killed. Since our story, the Commission has become more aggressive. 3 crib toys of the type we described have been removed from the market because of strangulation hazards. One is Kickers, an elastic chain with crib decorations. The others are Play Space International Crib Exercise and an Albert E. Price stuffed animal mobile. And all were recalled without a single baby having suffered. If you have questions about any dangerous or hazardous item, the Consumer Product Safety Commission has a toll-free hotline. The number is 1-800-638-8326. Got any gum?
No, and I don't plan to chew any. Thank you very much, Neil. The mileage ratings are out for the 1981 model year cars, and to no one's surprise, those most miserly with the gas are all made overseas. There were some bright spots, though, for Detroit.
For the 5th year in a row, the Volkswagen Rabbit diesel with a 4-speed transmission has been judged the most fuel-efficient car on the road. It got 42 miles per gallon in EPA city driving tests.
Volkswagen does it again.
Number 2, the Toyota Starlet 5-speed at 39 mpg, followed by the Rabbit diesel 5-speed, which averaged 38. Rounding out the top 10 were 7 Japanese cars, including the Dodge Colt and Plymouth Champ, 2 cars marketed by Chrysler but made by Mitsubishi. But there was also some good news for American automakers. At 30 miles per gallon, the new Ford Escort and Mercury Lynx models were the mileage winners among all compact cars tested. And in the midsize category, Chrysler's new K cars, the Dodge Aries and Plymouth Reliant, also won top honors at 25 miles per gallon.
And when Eyewitness News continues, as promised at 6, rain tonight and tomorrow, too. Dennis will be back in just a moment.
McDonald's has hidden over $2 million in this week's newspapers. Find the 25th anniversary coupons in your paper and you could win one of over $2 million in prizes. Like grand prizes of Volkswagen Rabbits, Marantz Series 80 stereos, Ross Grand Tour bicycles, Quasar 45-inch TVs, Xanadu record albums, Touch Me games, Quicksilver pens, and McDonald's food coupons. Don't just sit there. Go to McDonald's and see if you've won.
Nobody can do it like McDonald's can.
Watch for the winning prize numbers and free food coupons this week in your local paper.
There's a fragrance that's here today, and they call it Charlie. A different fragrance that thinks your way, yeah, they call it Charlie. Kinda young, kinda now, Charlie. Kinda free, kinda wow, Charlie. Kinda fragrance that's gonna stay, and it's here now, Charlie. Ba-doo-ba-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
Now the world belongs to Charlie by Revlon.
It is the French, you know, who invented the crepe. So when I heard about Stouffer's crepes, French honor demanded. I tried them. Oh, they are magnifique. the beef burgundy crepes, the ham and Swiss cheese, the spinach with cheese sauce, delectable. For lunch or dinner, a triumph. Stouffer's en France salute you.
Weather time. Dennis, what are we looking at?
We are looking at some rain. In fact, on the color radar at 6 o'clock tonight, this is what we left you with. It sure wasn't much, at least within 143 miles of the Twin Cities. All we were seeing were some very light showers trying to form to the west and to the southwest of the Twin Cities. But as dinner time rolled along, let's see what happened. A very heavy thunderstorm started forming around Faribault to the south of the Twin Cities, and you saw a little glimpse of dropping down in the ranges. So we'll do that and watch this thunderstorm roll along. It came through Dakota County and brushed through Washington County on its way to western Wisconsin. It had some small hail with it, but that was about the extent of any kind of real active weather associated with it. Now, lie within 85 kilometers or 53 miles of the Twin Cities. This is what we have. In fact, we'll pop in the rest of the counties. And the heavy thunderstorms have now moved well enough into Chisago County and brushing their way through Pearson, eastern St. Croix County, working their way into central Wisconsin. Still some gusty winds with those thunderstorms, but nothing dangerous at this point. And we have a few light showers to the southwest. Let's go out a little wider. This will be within 143 miles of the Twin Cities. And see what is taking place. Not much going to the north. In fact, if we can pick up the sweep a little bit. There we go. Some heavy thunderstorms now in southern Wisconsin, eastern Iowa, and there's some rather large stuff between Redwood Falls and Wilmer. All of this is moving to the east, so it looks like our showers and thunderstorms are going to continue. And it's no secret that it's been raining quite heavily the past couple of days, and that may do us some harm. According to the National Meteorological Center in Washington, D.C., there's the potential for some heavy rain on a line from about St. Cloud to Minneapolis down to Rochester and covering much of Wisconsin. And if we get that heavy rain, this area in here could go to a flash flooding situation. So we'll watch that very carefully over the weekend. In the almanac for today, just a trace of rainfall out at the airport. The high today was 70, the low 56. Currently, under mostly cloudy skies, the current temperature is 67. Dew point is 62, humidity 84%. The winds are northwest, and the pressure is rising. A trough of low pressure is still with us, the same one we've been watching for the past couple of nights, with lots of warm and wet air coming up ahead of it from the Gulf and some cool air coming in behind it. Add on an upper air disturbance, and we've got a meteorological mess with showers and thunderstorms, some of them pretty dangerous in Missouri, producing some tornadoes, but only minor damage has been reported. Have an interesting satellite loop to show you of this. Here we are around 9 o'clock this morning with cloudy skies across Minnesota, but as we step this along, you notice a number of breaks in the clouds to the south. And as this continues along, you'll see some areas of thunderstorms popping up. And to give you an idea of what the difference between clouds and sun made, here's our observer network. High temperatures around the metro area showed 60s to the north, but to the south in the sunshine, 70s and even an 81-degree reading in Cannon Falls. And high temperatures today around the country show 90s and 100s all across the south and southeast, with a nice layer of 50s and 60s continuing across much of the Northland, and about a 40-degree temperature change in about 300 miles. Here's the way the weekend is looking. This area of low pressure will move on to the east and wind up in Lake Michigan by tomorrow night, hopefully, and that will diminish the chance of showers for tomorrow night. And we could get into some sun on Sunday, but we'll have to watch that developing trough of low pressure to the west. That could mess things up for the weekend. Here are the details of the forecast as it stands now. For tonight, it'll be cloudy with a good chance of showers and a few thunderstorms, and areas of dense fog are likely too, lows of 56 to 62. For tomorrow, mostly cloudy with showers likely, highs of 64 to 70. Tomorrow night, a smaller chance of showers, 51 to 57. Sunday, we're hoping for variable cloudiness with highs of 67 to 72. Chance of showers 50% tonight, 60 tomorrow, and 30% tomorrow night. And the outlook has a chance of thunderstorms coming in again for Tuesday and Wednesday, although it will be warmer.
All right. Thank you very much, Dennis. And, of course, in sports, Friday night means high school football, and Bill Nyrop may soon be a North Star. Bob Bruce has those stories when we continue.
Save 10 to 57% off everything in stock during Levitt's money-saving 12-hour furniture sale tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Don't miss it.
If you've enjoyed this super premium beer, you really ought to try this super premium beer. They have a lot in common, but one thing they don't have in common is water. Because Heilemann Special Export is brewed with sparkling, pure spring water. Brewed in the old world tradition called kreuzening. Heilemann Special Export, the extra special super premium beer. That's why we say you can travel the world over and never find a better beer.
Presenting the Barrington Collection. A complete array of fine jewelry from which to choose when you open or add to a savings account at Minnesota Federal. Most items are free. All are available at special savers prices with a qualifying deposit. Stop in today and select from the Barrington Collection to own as a personal treasure or to give as a never-to-be-forgotten gift. Now on display at any of the 33 convenient locations of Minnesota Federal.
At Marjani, we believe in hugging because a nice snug hug makes every girl feel beautiful. So our Gloria Vanderbilt denims are carefully designed to give you the hug without the squeeze. Our denims fit right, but not too tight. It's a wonderful way to be hugged. Gloria Vanderbilt denims by Marjani for the hug without the squeeze.
Lots of news about the North Stars.
You're right, Don. A deal appears to be in the works between the Minnesota North Stars and defenseman Bill Nyrop. Nyrop, the retired Montreal defenseman you may recall, has been part of the North Star plans many times before, but never this close. Channel 5 sports cameras first spotted the former Edina and Notre Dame hockey star working out at captain practices a couple of weeks ago. And at that time, Nyrop indicated nothing was up. That is until today when North Stars general manager Lou Nanne started hinting a deal between the two was extremely close to being completed.
This is the closest we've ever got to getting an agreement between Bill Nyrop and the Minnesota North Stars, and I'm kind of hopeful that the past week's talks will have been fruitful.
If Nyrop and the North Stars can come to terms by tomorrow, the 28-year-old defenseman would report to the opening of training camp on Sunday. The rookies, meanwhile, got a jump on the veterans today with the start of a weekend rookie camp. Oklahoma City head coach Teddy Hampson led the 58 candidates through the drills. This year's camp includes the likes of Steve Kristoff, whose first-year rookie status is still intact, having played in less than 50 North Star regular season games last season. And if there wasn't enough activity already for the North Stars today, they also announced a contract extension for coach Glenn Sonmore. As usual, terms of the agreement were not released. Well, the Minnesota Gophers, they open up their 1980 football season tomorrow against Ohio University. The starting backfield goes like this: runners Gary White and Marion Barber, and freshman quarterback Tim Salem, the son of the coach, the head coach Joe Salem, will start tomorrow. Salem's high school alma mater, top-ranked St. Thomas, rolled to a 26-0 win tonight over St. Paul Harding. In the first quarter, Harding deep in its own territory. Why in the world they tried this play, I don't know. But they attempted a reverse. It was fumbled, and it was picked up by Mark Lingofelt, and he goes in and scores. That put him up 6-0. Second quarter, Lingofelt, and watch the blocking up in front of him as he goes into the end zone. Just lowers his head as they go on to win it by a score of 26-0. St. Thomas is now 3-0 on the season. Let's switch now to Class A tonight. Second-ranked Hutchinson had its hands full with Chaska. Defense was the name of this game. Number 53, Scott Schindler, recorded this sack for Hutch. Neither team was able to get on the scoreboard in the first half. Hutchinson finally scored a pair of touchdowns in the fourth quarter. They just sneaked by Chaska by a score of 14-0. Now then, high school scores. Cretin, Marshall U, and Edison winners tonight. Washburn beat Roosevelt. Brooklyn Center and Johnson won over Hill Murray 14-0. Stillwater, Kennedy, and South St. Paul winners. St. Paul Central, Simley, and North over West 34-0. Columbia Heights, Coon Rapids, Forest Lake beat Irondale tonight 7-0. Sibley over Park, Anoka beat Kellogg, and Nevis. Let's hear it for Nevis. They snapped a 39-game losing streak by beating Pillager 30-0. Well, the Minnesota Twins were done in by an old teammate tonight at Comiskey Park in Chicago. Watch this. Glenn Borgman just jumped all over that pitch. He had 3 hits for the Sox tonight. His 2-run homer in the 6th gave Chicago the lead for good. Borgie finished tonight with 4 RBIs, and the Sox beat the Twins 5-3. The series continues tomorrow in Chicago. And in the American League tonight, well, we're not going to have time for all the baseball scores, but I will mention that New York won tonight. Baltimore lost. The Yanks are now up by 4 games.
Okay, Bob. Thank you very much. Tight tonight. That's our report for now. Have a nice weekend. Good night.
Towsley Ford makes a price offer on Pintos and Granadas we will never make again. Listen to this. The last of the brand new 1980 Pintos from $39.99. Granadas as low as $52.59. You say, how in the world? Well, these are factory invoice prices, what we pay the factory. We'll show you the invoice. Not only a factory invoice price, but you beat the 81 model price increase. Also, Ford Motor Credit is financing these cars at 10% simple interest. This never again offer is good through this Saturday only. Towsley Ford only, White Bear Lake.
they're coming. The people who are changing the future of the world are coming from Texas to Minneapolis, St. Paul this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And they could change your life forever. Because the people from Texas Instruments, a world leader in high technology, are looking for more good people to work in Texas. If you're an experienced engineer, computer professional, or semiconductor engineer, the TI technical managers can hire you on the spot. Call 553-1600 for an interview, or go see them at the Radisson Inn, Highway 55 and Interstate 494.